It started with a routine decommissioning, a dead beacon, a forgotten outpost. But by the time the footage ended, the entire Bureau was silent, and the Solarians had reminded the galaxy why they were still feared. The Stellar Concord Governance Bureau convened its regular session in Chamber 9 of the Ascendant Spire, high above the crystalline spires of Xylos Prime. The room, devoid of external views, suffered from a persistent low-frequency hum and a sterile, omnipresent illumination that leached color from every surface. Around the polished crescent-shaped table, delegates from a dozen Concord member species sat, each cloaked in their particular expressions of weary patience, bureaucratic resignation, or the slow, creeping tendrils of existential ennui. Chairman Xylos, a multi-limbed Cillian with a crest of bioluminescent sensors that pulsed with his every thought, concluded his summary. And so, per Concord Mandate 77 Gamma, the petition for atmospheric filtration arrays on the mining asteroid designation K9 has been formally denied, on the grounds that the current mineral extraction output does not meet the projected caloric expenditure ratio for a population of fewer than 50 sentient beings. He swept his primary eye across the table. No delegate offered a challenge. No one shifted. Kale, a stocky four-eye krill, idly polished a data slate with a thumb ore. Lyra, a slender, feathered aethel, was meticulously braiding a strand of her own plumage. The junior chronographer in the corner, a species known for their temporal perception, was reportedly experiencing a localized time dilation field, a coping mechanism for the Bureau's relentless pace. Xylos's sensor crest pulsed a faint blue in resignation as he moved on. Next item, docket 34 theta, unregistered asset flagged for decommissioning, Pronos Beacon 7, originally classified as a deep space temporal observation post. Solarian activity detected. No Concord fleet intervention requested. He scrolled through the attached notes. Appears to be a routine Solarian recovery operation. Beacon listed as dormant. Likely another derelict station full of corroded conduits and unexpected structural modifications. Possibly a hydroponic farm again. A few tired chuffs rippled around the table. Kale grunted. Probably growing bioluminescent fungi in the comms array. Someone remind Vesper she's not supposed to convert sensitive data processors into terrariums. Xylos gestured towards the central projection. Display the footage. The chamber lights dimmed, the ambient hum lowering slightly. The main display shimmered to life, showing a time-stamped feed from a Solarian scout vessel. Ship class. Concord acknowledged but tactically unlisted. The feed opened on a final approach. A skeletal structure, the Kronos Beacon 7, drifted in the void, its hull plating faded, marked with designations from generations past. Its solar collectors were shattered, external life support inert. Only a faint, intermittent amber glow emanated from its primary data dish. The Solarian transport made no attempt to hail. It simply extended a flexible umbilical and docked with the beacon's underside with a series of precise, practiced maneuvers. Minimal thruster flare. Silent. The committee leaned forward, a collective, subtle shift. The footage jumped ahead. Inside the beacon, 3 Solarians moved through the dim corridors. No resistance, no legacy traps, no ancient defense protocols. The walls were thick with dust, but not decayed. One of the Solarians, their commander, identified by the subtle command sigils on her arm, removed a glove and swept it across a control panel. The dust, thick but uniform, settled back into place. No sign of recent activity, no residual thermal signatures, no biometric traces, just disuse. Vesper, Xylos murmured, recognizing her from a highly classified incident involving a misplaced asteroid. She was not on any current assignment. That was already troublesome. On screen, Commander Vesper turned to her second. Core systems are running on a subgrid hung, but it's still online. How? The second asked, a whisper of static in his voice. They never deactivated it, Vesper replied. Probably forgot it was even here. She knelt beside a flickering terminal interface. The crew swiftly bypassed the physical safety locks, manually keying in the console prompt. A low thrum filled the chamber as ancient Chronos hardware reawakened, glyphs scrolling across the screen. Vesper didn't hesitate. Access code, single quote, sentinel dot, override sequence, Echo-Delta-7. The terminal lights shifted to a steady green. The old beacon's internal logic clicked into place. A cascade of access permissions bloomed across the screen. No firewall, no intrusion countermeasures, no alert triggers. Just a long, slow scroll of full access granted, repeating. The Solarians didn't celebrate. They barely reacted. Redundant data conduits are still mirroring Concord core command data, Vesper said, tapping through interface menus, still tethered to the backbone. Wait, the third Solarian said. You're saying this isn't just a dead beacon? No, Vesper replied, already plugging in a data link. It's the oldest kind of problem, a forgotten door with no lock. Back in Chamber 9, no one spoke. Data began transferring on screen, rolling past too fast to read, but tagged with Concord standard metadata overlays. Concord Fleet strategic movement routes confirmed. Live military ship manifests updated. Civilian transit codes valid. Concord High Command structures archival plus active. Penal colony sites redacted. Classified Project Omius access granted. Bioclassified transmission relays mirroring. Xylos leans back, his mandibles stiff. Impossible, not impossible, Lyra said quietly, just ignored. That beacon was listed decommissioned after the Cygnus incursion cycles ago. Xylos spoke slowly. That's not a temporal observation post. That's a backbone node, fully integrated, still live. The room stayed quiet as the Solarian team progressed deeper into the archive. They activated substation links, accessed cold storage communications records, and queued data core fragments for off-site encryption. No alarms, no resistance, just layer after layer of raw intelligence pouring in. Vesper's voice came through again as she looked over the transfer rate. We've got full trace on their Phantom Fleet locations. That's what, a dozen shadow ships. No wonder they were running dark on the perimeter side. A soft chuckle from her second. And they never changed the logging. Old protocol, probably built by contractors. No one likes touching root level config unless the lights go out. Chamber 9 remained dead silent. The playback continued as the Solarians worked, calmly, professionally, almost bored. Xylos finally broke the quiet. That can't be real. But no one contradicted him. The footage paused as the team confirmed full exfiltration prep. On screen, they packed the final drive into a hardened courier capsule. Commander Vesper turned to the camera, apparently recording for Concord Command. Mission complete. Clap-up handled. Returning via gravity assist arc through the perimeter rift. Estimated arrival in 7 weeks. We'll need hot food and our mission bolus. Got my eye on one of those Class 9 adaptive AI fryers with integrated source algorithms. The video ended. The lights in Chamber 9 brightened slightly. Xylos looked around the table. That's not an op we authorized. Lyra nodded. It's not an op we even knew could be done, Kale added. And it was executed like a repair job. Nobody laughed. The room, once humming with monotony, had become a vacuum. They'd underestimated the Solarians again. The playback resumed automatically. A timestamp clicked forward in the corner of the screen. 4 minutes later, something shifted. A faint pulse on the upper right. Kale noticed it first. Pause. Rewind 2 frames. That, he pointed with the claw tip, eyes narrowing. The view adjusted, enhancing the image. A contact signature. Illyrian Scout-class light armor. Forward comm array. Warp trace residue still dissipating. Xylos leans forward. They just dropped out of slipstream. Shouldn't have been anything on this vector, Lyra said, adjusting her viewer. No patrols logged, no open trace routes, Kale added. And they're inside 2 minutes of loss on the beacon. In the playback, Commander Vesper stood calmly in the access bay, reading the same signal on a handheld slate. The rest of the team didn't scramble. No one shouted. No orders were barked. Vesper looked at her tech. Data burst packets queued. Frequency, 438.7. Passive band intercept. Old military range. Should still be in their firmware loop. Vesper nodded once. They'll hear this, she said quietly. The tech touched a control and the packet transmitted. Less than a second of noise, invisible to most scans. Harmless to most systems. It shouldn't have mattered. It should have been static. On screen, the Liran scout ship reacted immediately. Its telemetry spiked, lights blinked on its hull. Weapon parts extended and immediately receded. Thrusters fired off sequence. The scout ship performed a sudden evasive maneuver, rotated 32 degrees off course, and began scanning empty space sectors like it was surrounded. Pings bounced off non-existent ships. The playback captured a brief second of their comms, panicked chatter, unconfirmed contacts, weapon lock, alarms going haywire. And the ship jumped blind and fast, gone. No return fire, no signal to home command, just pure reactive fear. Back in Chamber 9, the silence was no longer bored. It was electric. Kale stared at the screen. That wasn't a virus. Lyra said nothing. Xylos clicked slowly. That was an exploit. Kale's claws twitched against the table. They used a data burst to trigger latent behavior in a scout's threat management suite. That's not even in our simulation libraries. We didn't know that was possible. That's not in anyone's libraries, Lyra finally said. That was passive frequency injection, ghost echo simulation, signal mimicry. It was artificial panic. Do we even know how that works? Silas asked. No, Lyra replied. But the Solarians apparently do. The playback continued. The Solarian team didn't seem relieved, only methodical. Final transfers were secured. The physical drives were locked into courier pouches and slotted into a drone shell for encrypted backup. Commander Vesper looked directly into the recording lens. Mission complete. Cleanup handled. Returning via gravity assist arc through the perimeter rift. Estimated arrival in 7 weeks. We'll need hot food in our mission bonus. Got my eye on one of those Class 9 adaptive AI fryers with integrated source algorithms. She grinned just slightly. The screen cut to black. In Chamber 9, no one spoke for a full 15 seconds. Then the lights dimmed slightly without warning. A low chime sounded from the room's entrance. Not a regular chime, not one tied to meeting schedules or security alerts. Everyone turned. The door to Chamber 9 unsealed with a hiss. The room's climate adjusted automatically, colder, sharper. A figure stepped through. He was tall, elegantly built in the severe posture of a high-born Tavarian caste. Skin matte obsidian with traces of iridescent plating beneath a deep grey formal cloak. No rank insignia, no weapon, no guards, only a single crystalline ID sigil in his left hand, glowing faintly with encoded clearance. J16. The top floor. The room instinctively straightened. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't need to. He walked slowly to the center of the table and placed the ID sigil down with deliberate care. I am retrieving all records pertaining to Docket 34 Theta. This includes visual logs, auditory transcripts, side recordings, cached metadata, and any personal annotations created during this session. Xylos opened his mouth to protest. This was not marked as a J16 matter. This was flagged under Level 6 oversight. It is now reclassified. Xylos faltered. We didn't even know the Solarians had this capability. The J16 operative nodded once. Neither did we. Not until they showed us. He began collecting the data modules without pause or apology. The committee didn't stop him. Kale leaned forward, voice carefully measured. So, they're what then? Concord agents with selective clearance, field autonomy? The J16 operative paused for just a moment. He didn't look up. He didn't smile. You give most species regulations, he said, so they don't do anything stupid. You give Solarians regulations so they have something clever to ignore. He closed the last data tab, withdrew the ID sigil, and walked to the door. It opened for him. He left. Silence fell again. Xylos looked at the space where the sigil had sat. No residue, no trace. Chamber 9's logs would register the event as a classified interruption, time-stamped but unreviewable. After a moment, Lyra leaned back in her chair. She exhaled slowly, folding her notes and closing her data panel. She spoke just loud enough for the others to hear, not looking at anyone in particular. One day, the Lyrans will figure out what Solarians are capable of. I just hope we're still technically on their side when they do. No one laughed. No one disagreed. The meeting was over.